On this episode of RevHang, Ben and I talk about the Japanese Grand Prix. Let's do it. Hello everybody and welcome to RevHang. I'm your host Nathan Nevue, and alongside me today is my fellow gearhead and co-host Ben Bagley. How you doing today, Ben?
Oh, pretty good. Got a little motorcycle maintenance done. Fixed my turn signals, which were backwards. And I am ready to talk about a very wet WDC.
Nice. Yeah, backwards turn signals I could imagine is somewhat problematic.
Yeah, I didn't notice it until I was pulling out of my driveway last week. So who knows how long it's been doing that.
That is kind of scary. But wow, I'm glad you got it fixed though.
Yep.
Cool. So just to let everybody know, I have been sick for the last few days. I mentioned in the last episode, which we recorded last night. I'm still getting over a little bit, so if I sound a little hoarse, that would be the reason. So just bear with me, please. I'll try not to sound too gross.
Horse been sounding a little Ferrari. Okay, yeah, I'm okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, speaking of Ferrari, we only have F1 this week. We don't have any other series to talk about. So just the Japanese Grand Prix. Let's just jump right in. We got nothing better to do. So, to give you some context, we'll go through qualifying real quick. The top 10 in qualifying were Verstappen, Leclerc, Sainz, Perez, Ocon, Hamilton, Alonso, Russell, Vettel, and Norris.
Yeah, Vettel had a pretty good streak this weekend, last week, of absolutely decent qualifyings.
Yeah, Vettel did very well this week. He kept talking about how much he loves this track. So I was pretty pleased to see him do well in qualifying, and then he ended up doing very well in the race, which we'll talk about.
Yeah, rain is the great equalizer, but it's also really boring at times.
Yeah, as we learned, it was a very wet Sunday morning in Japan. Morning and afternoon, actually. It rained pretty much all day. So the track was extremely wet. There were rivers running down the track when the race started. So, yeah, jumping into lap 1, Verstappen got a pretty bad start and fell behind Leclerc momentarily until he absolutely sent it around the outside of turn 1, which I thought was... at the time when I saw it, I was like, oh, that's overtake of the week. Which it almost won, but I give it to a different overtake during the race, because there were quite a few really good overtakes this week. But moving on, Vettel got a little too eager into turn 1 and made contact with Fernando Alonso, which ended up sending Vettel into a spin. He spun off into the gravel in turn 1, but was luckily for him able to continue as he did not get stuck. Halfway through lap 1, Sainz aquaplaned and spun, hit the wall, and caused a safety car. It was pretty sketchy incident, actually.
Pretty hard shunt.
Yeah, it was a hard hit because he was going so fast when he lost the rear. But then he bounced off the wall, like, onto the track, and he was just barely off the racing line, luckily.
Yeah.
So he didn't get clipped by anybody, but there were a couple of close calls, a couple of cars that were probably a good 2-3 feet away from hitting Sainz and causing a very nasty incident.
Yeah, really foreshadowing for the rest of the race.
Yeah. So Alex Albon also had problems on lap 1. He had either an engine failure or a gearbox failure. I wasn't sure which one it was. I thought it was an engine failure at first, but then later on they said he couldn't get out of second gear, which could, I guess, still be an engine-ish problem. I don't know. They called it an engine problem. It might have been a gearbox problem. We're not too sure. But regardless, it ended up ending his race right after he passed Sainz on the road. So, yeah, 2 drivers already out after lap 1. It was not Albon's fault. It was kind of Sainz's fault. I mean, technically he was driving the car, but the conditions were so bad that could have happened to anybody.
It was really a visibility problem.
Yeah. Speaking of visibility problems, Pierre Gasly, when he passed the incident with Carlos Sainz, caught a sign, like a piece of debris, one of those like styrofoam signs they have on the side of the track. He got that caught on his front wing and ended up driving the rest of the lap basically blind, which was kind of insane.
Yeah, especially in those conditions, just swapping your front diffuser for a sign.
Yeah, it was absolutely nuts. So he was forced to box under safety car conditions. When he got back out after the safety car, he was trying to catch back up to the back of the field. And when he passed the science incident on the track, there was a big 12-ton tractor on the track right next to the racing line that he almost hit at 200 kilometers an hour, which would have been horrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of drivers were not happy at how quickly they brought the tractors out, because in 2014 we actually lost a Formula One driver, Joe Bianchi, at the same track under the same conditions. A pretty similar scenario. Ran into the back of a recovery vehicle and had a life-ending head injury. Very sad.
Yeah, it was scary watching the footage from the driver's car because it's super foggy, a whole bunch of spray, and then all of a sudden this tractor is right in front of you.
Yeah, it was terrifying. And Gasly was especially very unhappy. He went to chat with the FIA during the red flag period, and I don't know what came of that, but I know the FIA have launched an investigation into that, and so hopefully this won't happen again, because it would be horrific if history repeated itself here in that way.
Yep.
But moving on, after 2 laps of running, the red flag came out. It stopped the race for about 2 hours, which we were all having Spa 2021 flashbacks.
Oh, yeah. Luckily, I wasn't watching it live, so I was watching it with friends today, which is Sunday. The race for us happened at 10 p.m. on Saturday, but I was able to skip through all that. But I didn't realize it was how long it was until I looked back at the elapsed time.
Yeah, it was kind of rough. 2 hours of not much to do. I played Magic the Gathering with my buddy who was over watching the race with me, so we played a couple of games while we were waiting. So that was fun, but I think I would have preferred a full race. But anyway, the race was finally restarted behind the safety car with about 40 minutes left on the clock to finish the race. And since the race was restarted behind safety car under wet conditions, all of the drivers were forced to go out on the wet tires, which shook up the strategy quite a bit, because for some reason this year, nobody wants to use the wet tires.
Yeah, it has been a trend I've noticed. It seems not only are they slower, I mean, obviously they're still on the wet tires, but you think that there's some trade-off for them, but it seems like they either make the intermediates work or they just slow down.
Yeah. Yeah, the extreme wet tires are just too slow, and they evacuate so much water that it just makes visibility impossible. And I don't know. I mean, I feel like Pirelli has to do something about the wet tire situation. I don't know what they can do, other than maybe just making a single wet compound.
That's what I was going to say.
Like they have an IndyCar. Yeah.
Just kind of uprate the intermediate a little bit, make it a bit more water evacuation.
Yeah, because if they did that, then it would make crossover periods even more hairy than they already are between wet and dry. So I think that would be really cool, because it would really shake things up strategy-wise. If you had a tire that was in between intermediate and full wet, that would be pretty nice, I think.
Yeah, or even, just 10% better in the wet than the current intermediates, because honestly, in the past couple seasons when it's been this wet, they just red flag the race anyways.
Right.
When normally they would be using wet tires, which makes sense. So I feel like the conditions that they're running in and will be running in, this kind of sets a precedent that I'm not really sure that there's a place for the wet tire anymore.
Yeah. So after just a lap or two of running, everybody decided to come in for the intermediate tires because they were so much faster. Vettel and Latifi came in right as the safety car came in to switch to intermediates, and they ended up being about 5 seconds a lap faster than everybody else when they got out of the pits. So everybody, I think, didn't need too much more encouragement to come in to switch tires.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of drivers watching other drivers' strategies to see what they're going to do.
Yeah, for sure. So as we got racing, Ocon and Hamilton had a crazy battle throughout the race that never seemed to resolve itself. They were battling pretty much the entire 40 minutes. It was actually pretty cool to watch.
Yeah, I'd like to see that.
Yeah, Ocon did a fantastic job defending from Hamilton, I will say.
Ocon fans rise up. There's dozens of us.
Let's go. All dozens of you. It is sad because I feel like he's a really good driver, but he's the most forgotten driver on the grid by quite a margin, I feel like.
He doesn't crash out a whole lot, and he doesn't finish on the podium a whole lot. He just, kind of finishes in the points and then goes to the next race.
Yep. No slight to Ocon. He is a really good driver, but for some reason he's just super anonymous. But with 30 minutes left in the race, George Russell started to make his way through the field, and Sergio Perez started to reel Charles Leclerc in towards the end of the race as well. Really started to hunt him down, and then on the last lap of the race, Perez finally caught up to Leclerc and forced him into an error into the last chicane of the track. The last little bit, Leclerc ended up leaving the track and gaining an advantage, so as they crossed the line, he was given a 5-second penalty, promoting Perez to second place.
Yeah. So normally, they kind of elaborated on this post-race. They would have just had Leclerc give the position to Perez, but since it was so close to the end of the race and the checkered flag waved, they just gave him the 5-second penalty by default.
Yeah, it was interesting. Mattia Binotto was saying that there was no evidence to support that Charles should have gotten a penalty there, and then I saw all the replies to that post on Twitter were Ferrari fans saying you're the reason that our season's messed up. And Charles absolutely deserved that penalty, so why are you why do you keep trying to put blame on everything else? It's just getting to the point where Ferrari fans are turning on themselves, and it's kind of sad.
They're cavitating.
Yeah. But so as a result of that, and Perez being moved up to second place, Verstappen had enough points to win the championship. Interestingly enough, even though for the whole race, Crofty was telling everybody that we'd be on reduced points, and Verstappen probably wouldn't win the championship because he wasn't going to get the points he needed. But then after the race was over, several minutes after the race was over, we found out that the race was actually awarded full points because of some weird clause in the rules that is very specific, and it was just kind of weird.
Yeah, super strange. Maybe next time Verstappen will have a more normal WDC win.
Yeah, I feel bad for him, man. He can't seem to win a championship without some sort of confusion or drama.
The last one was all sorts of fanfare and hullabaloo, and this one was oh, it turns out you actually are the WDC this race. Good job.
Good job. Yeah. I would love to have him definitively win a championship at a race and be able to celebrate in his car with his team. Yeah,
a little selfishly, I was also kind of hoping that he didn't win the WC this race so he could win it in Austin, because that'd be so cool.
Yeah, have him win it in the US. That'd be so cool. Yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah, I really wanted to see him do donuts, but he didn't even know he was champion until I got out of the car, so...
Yeah, just so weird. But yeah, it was a great job by Perez reeling in Leclerc to the point where that 5-second penalty could make a difference.
Yeah, Perez is the ultimate wingman to Verstappen. Very good team.
Dude just doesn't miss.
Combination there. Yeah. So, podium was Verstappen, Perez, Leclerc. The fastest lap went to Guan Yu Zhou for the Alfa Romeo driver. And driver of the day went to Sebastian Vettel.
Called it.
Yep, you did. Sebastian Vettel drove very well. He had that spin at the beginning of the race, but then absolutely nailed his strategy and made his way up into, like, what did he end up? Like,
Sixth?
Yeah, sixth. That's insane.
Yeah.
For that Aston Martin that's just absolutely terrible this year. That's
tractors drive
awesome.
great in the mud.
Yep, there you go.
That's all you gotta remember.
Yeah. So, results of the race. Top 5 were Verstappen, Perez, Leclerc, Ocon, and Hamilton. Esteban Ocon doing a great job getting into 4th place.
Yes.
6 through 10 was Vettel, Alonso, Russell, Latifi, and Norris.
Latifi and points.
Latifi scoring 2 points this race. And then 11 through 15 was Ricciardo, Stroll, Tsunoda, Magnussen, and Bottas. 16 through 18, rounding off the finishers, were Zhou, Schumacher, and Gasly. And then we had 2 DNFs, and they were Albon and Sainz, both on lap 1.
Yeah,
it's kind of shocking to me.
Yeah, despite all the chaos, I thought there were going to be a lot more drivers out.
Yeah, my friend last night, he asked me, he's like, how many DNFs do you think? Because he asked me this on lap 1 before anybody crashed, and I was seeing all the spray and the chaos, and I was like, there's going to be at least like 8 DNFs this race.
Hungry flashbacks.
Yeah, but that was not the case. It was just 2, and everybody else made it to the end, which, good on them.
Yep.
So yeah, it was a very, very wet race. Probably this and Singapore were probably the rainiest of the season. In terms of, wet weather tires and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, it was definitely felt the most this race.
Yeah, I think so. So Verstappen won the championship, as we said before. Congratulations to him. It's his first one that I think everybody can agree he 100% deserves, and I don't think there's going to be too much pushback on Twitter. But, that's hopeful thinking.
And if realistically, even if they do take it for some reason, he has another 4 races to win it all over again.
Yeah, exactly. There's no way he's... Yeah, I don't know. But he's going to win regardless. He already has one.
Yep.
I doubt they'll undo it. That would just create another social media storm they don't need.
Yep. Yeah, and I don't see any reason to, so.
There's no reason when he's just going to win at the next race anyway. But, yeah, so Vettel and Latifi had great strategies this race, taking the dive into the pits early, both making their way into the points. Nicholas Latifi is now ahead of Nick DeVries, so he is in 20th place in the Drivers' Championship.
Woohoo!
Good for him. He'll end in 20th out of 20 drivers rather than 21st out of 20 drivers. Love it. Unless he can score more points, which, don't put Latifi out of this. He's been known to surprise some people in good ways and bad.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah.
But Sergio Perez had another really good race. Once again proving his value to Red Bull, not only as a race winner last week, but as Verstappen's perfect pairing this week. He's just everything Red Bull needs. I know he kind of had a rough middle of the season this year, but he's doing everything they really need him to do, and so I don't think you can fault him too much for anything he's done this season.
Nope, and he is in 2nd place now in the WEC. Yes. The chase for 2nd place now. He is 1 point ahead of Charles Leclerc.
Yep. Yeah, he is now in 2nd place. Drivers' Championship. Leclerc's right there too, so it could still go either way. I'm almost certain now at this point that George Russell is out of contention for 2nd place, as well as Carlos Sainz. So between Russell and Sainz, it's going to be the battle for 4th. And I think Lewis Hamilton will end up 6th, which is where he's at right now. I don't see too much changing, even in the lower parts of the standings here. So I think we're pretty much set in terms of everything being where it's at.
Yeah, I mean, maybe Alonso and Ocon trade places at some point.
Possibly.
Maybe.
I could see that happening. Yeah. That'll be another one to watch. But
aside from that, it's
and
just
then
the battle for 2nd, the battle for 4th.
Right. And then in the Constructors' Championship, Only notable thing this week is Alpine overtook McLaren, so they are once again in fourth, best of the rest, with a 13-point lead. So that will be an interesting battle to watch as the season wraps up. Hopefully Daniel Ricciardo can pick it up and pull his weight and help Lando a little more than he has this season. But, we'll see.
It's Coda next. So
yep,
there's always a chance.
Ricciardo loves America, so we'll see how he does.
Please just go to IndyCar.
Please, that'd be amazing. I think a lot of fans would love to see that.
We already ranted about it enough last podcast. We won't go into it, but
yeah. So moving on to our overtake of the week, I gave this one to George Russell on Yuki Tsunoda in the S's section at Suzuka. Quite the daring overtake around the outside of a very fast corner, very fast sweeping right-hand corner, and it was wet and it was offline, and he made it stick, and he actually overtook several people in the exact same way there. This was just kind of the one I feel like he really was farther behind than he ought to have been to send that move. But, he made it stick, and Tsunoda gave him space, to be fair, and Russell made the overtake work, so good job to him.
Good racing.
Yep. Pit Stop Championship, for the first time in a long time, Red Bull has not won this week. They actually did not do very well at all this week. Yuki Tsunoda ended up with the best pit stop time, with a time of 23.756 seconds, followed by Lance Stroll and Pierre Gasly. So Aston Martin and AlphaTauri continuing to show good performance in their pit stops. So 4 through 6 was Alonso, Vettel, and Zhou. And then 7 through 10 was Verstappen, Norris, Schumacher, and Latifi. So Verstappen was at 7th? Yeah. And that's probably the lowest, one of the lower Red Bull performing races in terms of pit stops, because Perez was way back in 15th or something, so...
Yeah, not that they had a whole lot of opportunity to display their pit stop speed usually. I mean, there are a few pit stops. Maybe.
Yeah. Right, I think they only had one. Yeah. Right, because they came in for the red flag, but then, they pitted for intermediates right at the beginning of the restart. So I think they only had the one pit stop, and there were a lot of people coming in, so it's possible that the Red Bulls were held in the pits a little bit. But, I don't know. Anyway, regardless, Yuki Tsunoda comes away with the win, so congrats to him and his pit team. Pit Stop Championship standings, still very much Perez out in front. In the drivers, Red Bull is, they've won the championship for sure. I did the math earlier today, so confirmed.
Just an absolute sweep.
Yeah, and then AlphaTauri in second place, and they've got quite a gap to third.
Yeah.
So, looks like Red Bull and their sister team are killing it in the pit stops this season. It'll be interesting to see who gets third, because Ferrari is only 2 points ahead of Aston Martin right now.
Can you imagine if this is the actual championship? We had AlphaTauri in second, and then Ferrari and Aston Martin duking it out for third.
That'd be wild.
That'd be so cool.
That'd be crazy. Yeah. Hopefully Red Bull wouldn't actually be 300 points ahead of everybody with 4 races left.
They're not far off.
Yeah. All right, so going into our predictions for the Japanese Grand Prix. Ben, I went first last week, so why don't you go ahead and do your gloating?
Oh boy, yeah, I'm going to gloat. So, just to refresh everybody's minds, we had Verstappen, Perez, Leclerc, Ocon, and Hamilton in the top 5. I put Verstappen, Perez, Leclerc, Russell, which is incorrect, Hamilton, which was correct. Then I have my dark horse as Vettel, who, granted, did do pretty well this race.
Yeah, he got 6th, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so not quite the top 5 or podium I was looking for him, but, I'll take it. I at least mentioned his name, and he at least got points, which is better than some races.
Yep. My top 5 were Verstappen, Leclerc, Sainz, Russell, and Perez. With my dark horse is Fernando Alonso, so I got Verstappen winning, but that was about it.
Well, at least there's 1 point for you.
Yeah.
And neither of us predicted that Zhou would get the fastest lap.
I don't think anyone could have predicted that one.
Truly a delight to behold.
Yeah, I said Verstappen.
Yeah, I had Hamilton, and that was not correct at all. But for driver of the day, I did put Vettel.
And it did go to Vettel.
Yeah, line him up and knock him down on that one. That was a pretty easy one.
Yeah, nice. I said Fernando Alonso, but when you said Vettel last episode, I was like, actually, that makes way more sense.
Yeah.
And there you go. Nailed it.
It's all about psychology.
Yeah. So, I ended up using some similar psychology in my picks for the U.S., so let's just dive into that. Give me your top 5, Ben.
All right. I also psychology this a little bit. I think Verstappen has already won, so why not let Perez get some points? Help the team out, take it slow, Maybe he finishes an extra lap or two early or something and then hangs out in the pits with his wife or something like that, Or wait, are he and Kelly Piquet married or just
not yet. I think
dating?
They're just dating still.
Dating, okay, yeah. With his girl, let's just say it like that. So he gives Perez the first place. So it's Perez, Verstappen, Hamilton, who has a whole bunch of experience at COTA, Leclerc, who's just in a pretty fast car, and Alonso, because I feel like he's on a pretty good upward trajectory towards the end of this, and I don't see him really slowing down towards the end of the season. For my dark horse, I put Gasly because I feel like he's not mentioned very often. I just like to throw a bone.
Cool. All right, my top 5. I say Verstappen wins this. I don't think he's going to take his foot off the gas. I don't think that's who he is, but we'll see. I do say Perez gets second. I think he'll perform pretty well at the U.S. and Mexico, because he did last year. Third, I will say Carlos Sainz, because he also does really well in COTA. Fourth, I said Leclerc, because he's in the same car as Sainz. But I think Sainz will pull it out in that teammate matchup. And then fifth, I said Lewis Hamilton for the same reason as you, because Hamilton has a lot of experience at COTA and has a very, very good history here. And then my dark horse, I'm giving it to Daniel Ricciardo, because I don't think we've thrown him a bone either this year yet. And he just loves America so much that I think if he's gonna want to perform well anywhere, it's gonna be here.
Yeah.
So he'll be in a good mood. He'll be full of barbecue. And I could see him doing well. So he's my dark horse. Fastest lap, what's your prediction, Ben?
I'm going to say Verstappen.
Verstappen, okay. I'm going to say Perez.
All right, and driver of the day. It's going to be Ricciardo, I'm pretty sure. It's got to be. It's his last race that we know of for a little bit. It's the U.S. He's pretty much as close as we've got to an American driver aside from Perez. So, yeah.
Yep. So I actually said Perez will get the driver of the day for the same reason, because he's got the huge following in Mexico, U.S. Grand Prix in Texas, so he's kind of got proximity there a little bit.
It's practically like a second home field advantage for him.
Basically, I think so. So I think he'll do well. I think he's going to have a huge fan base supporting him there, and I could see him winning driver of the day as well. But Ricciardo is also a solid pick.
Yeah, I guess we'll just have to wait a little bit and see.
Yep. So we missed this last episode, but this episode I do want to give you a chance, Ben, to give us your words of wisdom.
Oh, man. Always, if you have time, go out and check the lights in your car or your motorcycle. Make sure your brake lights are working. Make sure your turn signals are correct, and your high beams are turning on and off, because safety first. Safety first, man. No one wants a fix-it ticket, so nope. Do yourself a favor, don't get pulled over. Just check your lights every once in a while, and make sure you're good to go. Good advice, Ben. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everybody, so much for listening to this episode of RevHang. If you enjoyed it, leave a like or rating on the platform you listened on, because it really helps us out. If you'd like to follow our thoughts and opinions on the motorsport world, follow us on Instagram and Twitter at RevHang Media. If you have any thoughts or questions about racing or even about us, post a tweet at #RevHangPodcast, and we may feature your question on the next show. We'd absolutely love to interact with you guys. You can follow Ben on Instagram at BenjiMeetsWorld and or myself at 2n_squared. While you're at it, go check out our website, RevHang.com, where you can find a calendar of upcoming races, updated standings for the racing series we talk about, along with our often terribly incorrect predictions for the F1 season. We will return in 2 weeks to talk about the United States Grand Prix in Austin, Texas, but until then, I have been Nathan.
And I've been Ben.
Thanks for hanging out, guys.
See ya.